Hello, welcome to the EP7 podcast. You are here with Rachel Donovan and the founder of EP7, Mr. George Helou.
Thanks, Rachel, and thank you for joining us. We love talking about how to get the heart into everything we do to get a lot out of life.
Whether it be relationships, business, careers, you name it. So, let's get started. So, George, have you ever been in a social situation, where you felt anxious or nervous?
Yeah. Sometimes I feel I'm a bit of an introvert. I know it may not sound like that. where if I go into a party, I don't want to draw attention to myself.
Party meaning so there's more than 8 or 10 people or bigger?
Bigger. Okay.
So we're trying big group of people.
Yeah, no, under 8, and I want to be the centre of the attention the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Oh.
No, but I think with 8 people, that comfortable group, I don't get self-conscious anymore. I just lose myself in the conversations and sharing. So,
okay.
Yeah, but in big groups, I'm not the one to just run around introducing myself to people I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you? You look like someone you would. You just want to know everyone. I'm kidding.
I know, but I mean, I definitely initially very much, and if I don't know anyone, I'm definitely introverted in that sense where I feel nervous.
Yeah. I
actually think that that's part of the reason why I used to purposely be late, so that would just walk in and start if it was a class or anything like that, to avoid having to put myself in that situation.
So Helen, you just said class. So does that mean if you get there too early and there's just someone there or 2 people there, you would have to kind of feel like the need to connect to them and talk, and that's awkward for you?
Yeah. Not anymore,
right.
But that's definitely before. Definitely, I know years ago, that's definitely what I would think. I just want to get there just in time, but not have to be in that situation, yeah. For anyone that's listening to the podcast, the topic is being social, having anxiety in social situations.
Yeah, social anxiety.
Yeah.
Very common, very common.
Yeah.
Now, why are we socially anxious? Is it because we just are so self-conscious and are too busy feeling like the eyes that are on us are judging? Is that, in a nutshell, what it is? And that if there's any pressure to engage, we feel inadequate and not up to holding our own, like engaging in a meaningful, entertaining conversation or being able to respond in a way that's interesting and respectful. So we overthink, we start to worry, and therefore we naturally don't want to be in that situation in the first place. So we avoid it.
And I think it's also about fitting in. Worried about not fitting in, like being on the outside, being rejected.
So we end up deciding not to fit in at all by not showing up. Because, so it's like rejection. It's fear of rejection. So does it all boil down to the fact that we just want people to accept us, but we don't believe they will? We don't believe we're up to the task to prove to them that we're worthy.
Yeah, that must be the belief, if that's when we're making our decisions from.
It reminds me of a time when we were talking about dating, and I was talking about how, some of my clients would tell me that they would overthink, and it actually made them appear dumb because they were overthinking so much they weren't even paying attention to what was being asked of them or cues on that would be normal in social interaction. So they kind of started to look weird.
Yeah.
But I knew, and I can assure you of this, that one particular lady I remember was sharp-minded, highly intellectual, very intelligent. She's actually doing a clinical psychology degree now, right? She's back at uni doing that. And it just makes you realize that we're trying to measure up, but we put so many hurdles in front of us. We make it hard. We create a crazy obstacle course. And the simple alternative is, what if you're already enough just to be yourself? Why do we think that who we are is not enough? Like, one of the things that I know creates social anxiety from clients of mine who've told me is that they put pressure on themselves to have to come up with interesting things to talk about, and they can't think of things. So they panic and they feel like they've let down the occasion because they're not keeping the conversation flowing with awesome, interesting topics.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense why you would put all the pressure on yourself. I mean, why can't the other people share that responsibility? And the other thing is, they feel like they struggle because if someone talks about something that they don't know anything about, then they feel out of their depth. And then some of them feel the pressure to feign that they know stuff. And then that creates anxiety. And then they feel stupid because they got nothing to contribute to the topic. But I don't have that problem, Rach.
Why is that?
And I thought about this because I wanted to give them value of, how they can be different. There are limitless angles to any topic where you can find a context where you're passionate about what you have an experience. So you can contribute genuinely. I'll give you an example, right? Let me make something up. Say someone is talking about a movie that you haven't watched. The more they talk about the movie, it'll remind you of movies you have watched. Then suddenly you're talking about that as well. Say someone talks about the military and you don't care about war. But I care about discipline and what benefits could you get from the military and what psychological issues can affect you because you end up having to stop thinking for yourself because you're meant to be a selfless cog in the wheel. So I then get fascinated about talking about the power of discipline in the military to see things through, but also about reclaiming your imagination once you've spent time there, and what are the consequences of no longer thinking for yourself for such a long time. You lose that imagination. You see, there are examples where anyone can talk about any topic that could be beyond me, but I'll find a context where I'm interested and then I take it in that direction, which flows, it relates. And I think...
So, yeah, that shows, though, that you're really present in a conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, like, I guess a lot of other people, if they're so busy thinking, oh, my gosh, I've got nothing to say, and they're caught up in their own head, they're not really perhaps listening or present in that situation.
Yeah, totally. And, Rachel, I don't put pressure on myself to have to perform with what I know when people are talking. Do you know why I'm so comfortable that if someone was just talking about amazing stuff that was exciting and entertaining, I'm just happy to keep asking questions and learn from them about that world. But you know what's interesting? In social interactions and even relationships, if you're fascinated by what someone is sharing with you, that you want to know how it all interconnects and how it all went down and, what else is they learned from that experience and what did it make them realize about life? Like, once you're truly interested, you start to want to know how it connects to everything else. And for me, I would be just as content it being one way and me learning a lot and going deeper into that world.
I agree, yeah. I see what you're saying.
And what's funny, Rach, is that you are much more value in a social interaction if you are genuinely interested and can take someone deep into their world where you see so much value, so that what they're sharing is creating such a genuine connection. That, suddenly you're getting on like a house on fire because they just dig the fact that you're so genuinely interested. And obviously it's genuine because you kept asking relevant questions, wanting to unpack it in so many different areas that were interesting.
Yeah.
Meaningful. So, yeah, I think social anxiety seems to be more about the low confidence that you referred to earlier, probably coming from a lack of communication skills that can facilitate just connecting and understanding and sharing.
Yeah. So what about the situation where, because I think this is probably one of the hardest situations. It's fine if everyone walks in a room and no one knows each other, everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yet when you're the person that you're walking in, maybe you're with a friend and you're meeting all of their friends for the very first time, or they're all their family for the very first time. So everyone knows everyone else and you're the only person that doesn't know anyone. And that's often when conversations can start in between people, and you're not necessarily, you feel like you're not going to be included. And, you know, sometimes people aren't conscious of it because they're so in their conversation. And that can be a really sort of create a lot of anxiety for someone to be sitting in that seat.
Yeah. I guess there's pressure being put on yourself to feel like you're supposed to be included and contributing. But for me, just listening to two people talk and really acknowledging what they're talking about, if I do that long enough, I start to want to ask questions, and then suddenly I'm included because I'm really interested in the topic that they're talking about. I really think it's back to the process of sit in absorbing long enough, and then that flow of connecting through genuine questions starts to happen. And I really think it's not about trying to fit in.
See, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's about fitting in. I think that's loaded with fitting in is proving that you are of value and you know shit too. And why would you do that to yourself? Freaking hard work.
Correct me if you think I'm off the path here, but maybe you don't fit in.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't make you feel welcome. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're not, you know. And so being okay with that and not letting it be about taking it personally.
Yeah. Okay, now that we should play that out. Like, if you're in a situation where everything that everyone's talking about, they are so tightly interconnected with one another that your genuine interest in them and asking questions, they do respond because obviously they're not going to be rude, but they don't actually open up and start being interested in you in your world. What do you do with that? Well, I don't think social anxiety needed to play a role in that at all, because then what you do is you go, okay, that's not a space that resonates and reciprocates. So you drift in and out of that experience and you move on. And if circumstances recreated again and you engage again, maybe it's a different day. They're in different moods. Maybe the second time around, they're becoming more familiar with you. Maybe an event that themes around what you're about gives you an in. I mean, who knows? I guess the point here is just go with the flow. And if you're not getting in and it wasn't satisfying and circumstances put you back in there and it wasn't satisfying again, then maybe you make an effort not to put yourself in those circumstances if you feel like you have too much good stuff to be doing elsewhere. But the point is, social anxiety is not a legitimate, understandable, it's understandable, but it's not necessary. It's not a legitimate emotion because people's opinions are not jeopardizing your well-being. You see, social anxiety, the emotion of anxiety, is this sense that you may be attacked or you may be rejected and abandoned. So a brain is sending signals to your body to prepare yourself to be harmed.
So you're saying if you're sitting there and let's say no one's talking to you and you're sitting there and you feel like everyone's noticing that you're the only one being quiet because no one's talking to you and you're sticking out like a sore thumb, are you saying that's not rejection?
No, that may be indirect rejection. Mm-hmm. And then that may be embarrassing because you're thinking they know I'm not fitting in. And that's not cool. And I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable and I want it to end, right? Mm. And therefore I'm going to leave discreetly. I'm just going to leave. And I'm just going to tell whoever's there that cares enough that I need to go, I've got something on. And I'm going to create an excuse to exit because I don't want to be in that uncomfortable place. A client of mine who, his main reason to do EP7 was social anxiety. I now remember this, right? Very good looking guy. And a profession. He's in a profession that pays high money. He had no reason to complicate his life in his head, right? But it got to the point, Rachel, where when he would go to a party, he may actually even physically get to the building, but not walk in and end up not going at all.
Wow.
Yeah. And when he did muster the courage to actually walk in, the moment people started to ask questions where he felt that he wasn't going to be measuring up in his view because he was a perfectionist, he started to sweat. And the sweat made him self-conscious that he was embarrassing himself, which made him sweat even more and not even able to think. And eventually he would whip himself up into obviously the anxiety is getting intense, and then he would literally run out of there because he couldn't handle it anymore. When we deconstructed the reasons why he was that anxious, he had a good laugh at the nonsense. It really gave him a breath of fresh air that there was no logic and no justifiable reasons to be putting the pressure on yourself and expecting people to be that judgmental, that hostile. And I guess that's the point, right? If you move into a place where people are that judgmental, if your brain projecting that level of anxiety because you think they're that judgmental and they're going to be that cruel, trust me, if they really are that, they're the ones that should be embarrassed. They're the ones that should have social anxiety for being such idiots. And you get to be the one that's comfortable in your own skin because you're not the idiot. So in other words, with just a little bit of perspective, you have nothing to worry about. Being yourself is actually, remember I say this a lot, being yourself with no pressure means you can be truly present. Being truly present means you're really absorbing what people are offering and you're demonstrating you get it, you're validating, you're adding value in more questions that are relevant. That creates a bond. That's just the mechanics of a relationship working and being healthy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. So if you're just doing the basics of no pressure, I'm just going to listen and I'm going to see what's important to this person, how they're talking, because I want to start to appreciate their tone, their choice of words, what they seem to emphasize, their body language, the kind of examples they use. And I'm going to start to kind of get a feel for what this person, what they're passionate about, the kind of meaning they've made in their life, and even their worldview that we did a podcast on, right? If you just really honor that, you're going to be entertained because there's so much to learn about people. And now there's no pressure on you offering any, tap dancing entertainment show for them. It's now just doing something very valuable that everybody loves. And it's just doing what you know how to do, which is just listen and start to look at how things match to tell a broader story. And then as they keep talking, you start to see, oh gosh, that makes sense that they're now talking about that because I kind of could see, And so it's almost like it's almost like on a treasure hunt to solve the puzzle of what makes this person up with where they're at in life. And as they offer more pieces, you're already preempting the bigger picture more and more and more. And that can be very exciting to do. Obviously, I do that. You know, it's funny. People say to me, oh, please don't analyze me. Like they think that I'm analyzing them. And I know a lot of people, and I'm not a psychologist, but I know a lot of psychologists have to reassure people that they don't analyze, right? Well, the truth is, Rachel, I analyze all the time, nonstop. And I don't even try. It's not a conscious thing. It's just that I see too many dots joining constantly in front of me with people, with everything. But I don't judge. It makes no difference to me about someone arguing for a limitation in their life because I have limitations too. So I don't care. So what? So what if I can see someone has this assumption that's silly and it's stopping them from realizing a talent or a dream? I'm happy to talk to them and even dare to say that I see it, but I actually don't judge them. I don't care. We're on a freaking journey. So that way, I'm just always stimulated by learning about people because we're all fascinating. So do you think social anxiety could be maintained in an environment where you've taken all that pressure off you to have to prove you know stuff?
No, because the pressure we put on ourselves to know things or to be funny or to be accepted is exactly what gets in the way.
And really, it goes back to the common thread of, do you belong on this planet? Is this world yours? Is the world more anyone else's than yours? Do they have a special gold license and yours is bronze? I mean, if the world is yours equally like anybody else, then is the room with a few people a part of the world? Like, in other words, wherever you are and whoever's there, it's just all a part of the world that's yours. Just friggin' play. Just chill out. Chill the dude out. Have a bloody good time.
When I went travelling by myself to France a few years ago, and I remember how nervous I was. I was by myself and I, walked into a... This is so embarrassing. I've got my bag on my back. I walk into the hostel and I get my key, go up to the dorm where I'm sleeping. I think there's about eight beds in there. And I walk in, I see a few people in there, freaked out, turn around and I walked back out again. I was just so scared. And then I remember just thinking, I obviously had to pull myself together and just be like, well, what are you going to do? So I just walked straight back in and I just said, hi, how you going? And they both, remember the two girls just turned straight to me and said, oh, hey, how are you? Started chatting straight away and it was all totally fine.
Yeah.
And from then on, I remember people then would meet me after that and they'd be like, gosh, you're so outgoing and you're so confident. And I used to laugh because I used to think, God, if only they knew how scared I was, like initially.
Wow.
But then from then on started realising it. And even now today, I always, if I walk in somewhere and I'm walking into a space and there's already people there, I always just call out hello and say hello first because it's like that just breaks that initial no one's talking to me, oh my gosh, where do I look? It just breaks that ice straight away and it's never let me down since.
Isn't that amazing how, so you're saying to me one circumstance just kind of really jolted you out of doing that to yourself?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
But I think I was forced into it because I didn't have a choice. I had to walk back into that room. So it was that real,
Yeah, but Rachel, it was the meaning you created out of that experience that gave you instant wisdom to change timelines. So you could have easily regretted making a fool of yourself, walking out like that, walking in, feeling embarrassed, saying, God, please let this pass as soon as possible. I don't like this feeling. And then just still having that same challenge over and over. But you didn't do that. So obviously you drew a conclusion. What was the conclusion you drew about that? Like, what was it that you decided, oh, wow, I don't need to do that to myself anymore because?
Do you mean the conclusion before I walked back in and said hello or after that?
The whole thing, the whole experience. Like, what did you draw from that about why you should not do that to yourself?
Because it was painful and it was going to ruin my time if I was going to not be able to meet new people.
So let's look at the context here. One context is there's people you don't know. The other context is you're on a holiday about meeting people you don't know. That's just part of the process, part of the adventure. You were in the habit of not wanting to meet people you don't know. And you caught yourself committed to meeting new people, reject it, and going, I can't do this. It goes against my very purpose, my very investment to be here.
Yeah.
So then you walk back in, and then probably the thing that helped you, let me know if this is true, is that they were absolutely fine in connecting to you.
Of course, yeah.
And your brain went, oh my gosh, it's all me. I was doing this to me and I surrender that nonsense.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And then you thought to yourself, I now want a future where I'm set free from that nonsense I just did to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was obviously real because that you followed that through.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I hope we have given you, the listener, something, if social anxiety is an issue, something to take on and start to reframe and reintroduce yourself to those environments without the pressure and to honor the fact that this is your world just like everybody else's, and you can just get to connect and understand, and before you know it, and I know this, before you know it, you're going to shift out of your body and witness yourself flowing with conversation with zero self-consciousness. And you're going to go, oh my goodness, where did that come from? And the only reason why that was allowed to happen is because you grounded yourself in caring and connecting first, giving of yourself, giving attention to other people, and letting that world connect so richly that suddenly it was easy to flow into it with the real you that was actually of value. Because I guess somewhere in all of this is that deep down, we are interconnected. And what we offer is the diversity of conversations that appear different, but there we find how connected we are the more we move through those layers of our different experiences that we're sharing. So it's like the best of both worlds. We offer each other the adventure of our different experiences that ties into the oneness of how we're all the same as well. So it's nice to have that perspective and start to see people as a part of you, but they also celebrate their individuality like your own, and just to allow that connecting and embracing of those worlds.
Spot on, George.
I feel like I need to go to a party and test my refreshed anti-social anxiety skills.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Well, thanks for listening and joining us on an EP7 podcast. We look forward to chatting to you very soon.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on another EP7 podcast. If you liked what you heard, remember to share and subscribe so you're notified of every podcast released. If you have any questions or would like to connect with us, please jump on the EP7 official Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you.